It's a very wonderful day, and we're glad to have you join us here on Independent Television for Law and You this great Monday afternoon. I am Uyi Agmofwegwe. Today on the program, and for this week by extension, we want to look at a topical discussion that many people watching right now can relate with. That is the right to property. What right does a citizen have to property, and to what extent can they use that right? At what point can we say they have overstepped the bounds of that right? You take a look at society today, particularly in this part of the country, you realize that land is often a subject of controversy, often a subject of conflict in most cases. But thank God, just recently, the state government, in collaboration with the traditional institution, has been able to abolish CDAs, that is Community Development Associations, as we knew them. But even after that has happened, you still find pockets of conflicts regarding landed properties. And then you find situations where, for example, some persons were told, even informed, that if after 2 years of purchasing a piece of land, for example, and they do not develop, they are likely going to forfeit it. And then in very recent times, again, you continue to find disclaimers on radio and television, sometimes even on the pages of A-list newspapers, of communities calling on developers and those who own lands within those communities to come forward with proof of ownership. Sometimes they are given as much as 2 weeks or 30 days within which they must come to claim ownership with, of course, credible documents to that effect, against which they may not be able to claim ownership ultimately. And all of this just creates many issues, in some cases, as lawyers will say, encumbrances for those who are going to develop these plots that they own across these many communities. When you take a very critical look at these developments, it raises a question as to what is the place of government? What are the regulations on the ground? How did we even get to that point where we, as it were, established CDAs in the first instance? Because many people you talk to about these issues till tomorrow will tell you that the idea of having CDAs in the first place has rubbed off in very negative ways on how lands are developed, how properties are acquired, particularly in the estate. To help me make sense of this conversation today, I'm joined by Dr. Patrick Awosai. He's a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on the program.
It's a pleasure, and hello viewers at home.
One of your areas of, should I say, business now is property. So you have a handle on these issues. You want to, by way of starting off this discussion, share with us some of the challenges you deal with, especially when you have to walk clients through these processes.
Thank you very much. Property is wealth, and it's something that everyone clamor or wish to own. Because if you have a product I read in books some time ago by Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States, he had said I could get my property documents, the document, that's by implication, the certificate of occupancy, throw it to the bank, pull money from the bank, get the property and get tenants to occupy it, while they pay rents, they service the loans in the bank, while I play golf and enjoy the money. So he just jokingly said that years ago. And we must understand that there are a lot of things that is tied to property. There are a lot of traditional stuff and a lot of cultural things that have to do with property. It dates back to ageless times. Even from the Bible perspective, we could see that. Naboth's vineyard, we saw how emotional he had, the emotion he showed in his land. He wouldn't want Ahab, the king, to take his land from him because he said this is his inheritance. The Zelophite widow too, from daughters, who said their father in the days of Moses, their father happened to have been a man who died, but he didn't have a son, but they said they want landed properties too. So owning a property is something that is traditional and also something that could give you so much of wealth.
In other words, there's so much of commercial angle to it.
Yes. Now, if you take a look at our society today now, if you are a man and if you don't own a property, they said you have not started life. They come on saying that, have you bought a land? Have you built your own house? Have you done this? Have you done that? So this is also what has triggered of this business, and a whole lot of persons want to own their own property. But along, like you just asked, what have been my hurdles, my challenges in the course of time? I've done this for over 18 years now, and it's quite some time, and I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, you meet somebody who say, well, this property is mine, and at the end of the day, it turned out to be somebody else's own. You have to do your due diligence. And you also have situations of owners who walk away and just pretend as though they know nothing about what is happening, waiting for you to develop, and after that is done, they come back with a lawsuit and say, well, we are coming, this is my property, and issues like that. So you have to be careful to navigate carefully when you are trying to draw out, broker, a transaction between your clients and owners of property, as the case might be. So these have been a lot of challenges, to us, because if you take a look at the way it's structured, it's done haphazardly. There is no uniformity, there is no proper documentation. Now you have some lands in the community, for instance, not the urban, the rural area now. The urban is the most contested. In the rural area where you have farms, land, and all of that, because people also engage in farmland, you see two communities having issues over the owner.
Sometimes boundary
disputes, and they now say, my boundary is here, it got into this and that. For that, you can't do anything, we go to court. And these have spent years in court, tens of years in court, and lawyers have been taking on. I was even a case in Lagos precisely, that the father had, helped out as a lawyer in the matter. He lived all his life and died. His son also did all he could as a lawyer to the third generation. So the matter has been in court all the way. So these are some of the challenges that we've had. But I really wish we had a system that worked like what we have in England. For instance, you can't wake up in the morning and say, this XYZ land belongs to me or to my family, because everything is properly structured and documented. And you have no right to do that. You can only take some lease of the said land or whatever you want to do. It must be approved. Like how we build, for instance. Somebody wake up in the morning and say, I want to build this, I want to build that, I want to build some bungalow here. But what's the plan? Because the government have not told us what should be there. So I could wake up and do the needful. Well, we say we have the town planning and all whatnot. Oh yes, they are there. But how effective have they been over time? So these have been some of the challenges. So it's not to have government offices saddled with certain responsibility, but really not living up to its expectation. I think these are some of the challenges that have really, like I said, the whole lot of activities.
You are a lawyer. If there's anything you're passionate about, it's matters of rights.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes.
Then you have situations where all of a sudden one morning you wake up and a particular house or some houses are going to be demolished.
Yes.
Yet the owners of these houses come out to say, we have documents, government approved, duly approved these buildings for us. Yet the same government is going to demolish these houses. That's some conflict, serious conflict, right?
Absolutely.
How does the law protect people like this, for example?
Now, look, the truth is this, like I honestly believe, governance and government ordinarily should work on a continuity project or agenda. It shouldn't be because that party is not my party, I'm going to stop all he did. We don't have to kill another party's agenda, so to say, well, say they didn't do well, and to just give them some bad name. Now, if in the time of Governor Ogbemodia, as it's in then Bender State,
say in the 80s, for example.
In the 80s, precisely, he wanted to do some stuff, and he had planned to build a library somewhere, and he had already reserved that, and along the line, maybe he couldn't do that. It would have been beautiful if the incoming governor or the new system of government look into what that leader had started and see where we could continue. But most of the time, they abandon such projects, and meanwhile, the governor, as at the time, had already said, I want to do this. I want to build a technical school, for instance, and we've brought some machines and equipment there, but we couldn't do much. And then we abandoned it. Our tenure has elapsed, so we are out of office. The new governor or the new system that comes on board, they tell you, well, we have something else to do. My own project is not in that direction, so we just abandon government project like that. Funds have been poured in. So these are some of the challenges. So when we look at it now, time will come that the lands that have been given or taken over from my government, and we have to pay these persons compensation. For instance, they have to see some land in a community because we have this and that to do. I just talked about maybe we want to build a farm. Like we talk about Ruga now, we want to set up a good farm for livestock, and as it were, we have seized the land from the community, and we'll say, you guys should come up for payment. The moment we get started, you should come up. But government didn't come. But he has seized the land and they have asked us not to do anything there. Over time, we have not, and then the new governor or the new government that had come is now saying, well, that's not my director now. And we would also say, well, the owners have been issued, start selling. It's still our land because government have not fulfilled their part in trying to compensate us because of what needs to be done.
Right.
But you also have cases where government have compensated them. These guys come back because the governor left office and the new one is not interested. So you have two categories of persons now.
Right.
Now the first one is that you were not compensated
At all.
Now you have taken back your property, you started building, and then records reveal that governments have taken over this land. And they said, no, we are going to mark you for devaluation. You come up and start shouting, oh no, we were not compensated. If record reveal that, then you have right to go to court and ask government to do the needful. And the court will back you and definitely give you...
Are our laws up to date regarding these realities?
Obviously, it's an issue of rights. It's an issue of what is mine. The law will not take what is yours from you and give to another. Not possible. So it's an issue of rights. The laws are up to date. The laws are there. We don't have a problem with laws. We have a problem with interpreting and implementing it. You can get judgment against the government of the state. To implement it become an issue. Remember the issue that played out the other time when a bailiff was to serve some honorable members, processes of court, and they got beaten in the process. So some of the hiccups were now for the other folks that didn't get, or rather they have been compensated.
Yes.
And now because the projects seem to have been abandoned, they come back again. They want to eat their cake and have it at the same time.
Which is not possible.
Which is not possible. So they start building, maybe at the early time they feel, well, it's good, it's all well. But a governor or a government that would have good eyes and checking through the records, these people we've compensated. I remember it happened in the former governor's time, Governor Adams Oshomole, when he came up and said some persons were compensated, in the time of Obemudia.
Right.
And then I said, why?
And that government was in possession of those documents.
Yes. And then I said, no. And he said, I have records. So he was able to come up with evidence that this is it. So those guys have come to do that. They are fraudulent folks. And they have breached the law. And definitely government will take back its land. So these are some of the things we see. So it's not always the government trying to oppress the people. The people on their own too could be very funny in the way they behave. I honestly believe that in land transaction it's very complicated. It's not what you just look through and say this is how.
But what are the factors responsible for that complication you just mentioned?
Like I just said, the factors, now one, the system is not formidable. The
regulatory end of it.
The regulatory end of it, because ideally, if you have lands, ordinarily there should be a system put in place, which we have in the lands registry.
Okay.
But is that one good enough? I think they are majorly concerned about the urban environment, the urban areas, not the interiors. And now and even in the urban area, they are not well structured properly. There are a lot of lacunas, there are a lot of cutting corners, there are a lot of things that happen, and there are a lot of things that could happen because of friends. So, we are seeing favoritism and political patronage. This man is my party man and that man is my person. So when you create a leeway for your patronage, for your folks that belong to your class or political class and friends, then somebody is going to exploit that too, because you open something to do some other, constitute some other havoc along that line. I think this is what we see. When your friends seem to be erring, say, well, leave him, he's my friend, don't go there.
On a basis of sentiments.
Sentiments. Then somebody is going to take that. Probably, I think I remember, I don't want to mention briefly, there was a particular, one of the past governor, and there was a document that was signed by the governor to let some persons be. But that copy was pulled, was duplicated, and affixed on other documents, which was not supposed to be. And it went on, and somebody was benefiting.
Over time.
Over time. And it got to the knowledge of the governor, and that was very, very bad. Because when you do things like that, some of these folks working within the government circle, in the service of civil service and all, there are a lot of underground workings that really affect some of these things. They say, well, we get a release for you, we get this and that for you. A lot of things, everybody doing so many things at the same time. I honestly believe, I won't blame them. Neither will I blame whoever is there. I blame everything on the system. The system, I mean the government that is on board. because everything rise and fall on the leader. You cannot begin to blame the people for what is happening. You have the knife, you have the yam. I honestly believe that to regulate these things properly, it's the governor that, or the government that is saddled with this responsibility. And there are people everywhere. You talk about building. Okay, before somebody could erect a structure and to completion, where was the town planner? Where was the regulatory body?
So there's a question about surveillance, supervision.
Obviously, they have not done the needful. So you just wake up one morning and then you allow me to build over time, and then you just come up on me and mark it X that is marked for demolition. Before you demolish, why did you not restrain me from building? It was the duty of that office to restrain me from building, serve me notices, not to start up anything you are doing there.
Interestingly, just to add to what you're saying,
Yes.
we've seen cases where buildings had been earmarked for demolition.
Yes.
Then a few weeks down the line, the same order is reversed. So what are
Absolutely.
some developments that could lead to that?
That is what I'm saying. It could be what I earlier said.
Okay, the backdoor approach.
The backdoor approach. Okay. My brother, look at how it is. Please, I cannot do. It's okay. What do you have? Say, I have XYZ stuff. Okay, I will do something about it. And then you get a release of government, you just clone it and affix it to its own and give it some code, and
that's supposed to be an approval.
That's supposed to be approval. That's done. They say, well, if you come, and the guys going to carry out the execution or the enforcement team, they are not the people that, the document don't emanate from them. Okay. So when they see that, oh, it's from the office, and they call the office, he said, yes, it's in order. They stay off. So they don't have right to query that. So that is basically how it goes. And then when people now begin to see this, they now also decide, how did you do what you did? How did you save your property? Say, don't worry, I will tell you, I have a friend somewhere. And before long, all these things come out, and then they start doing something before it becomes a problem. If you have issue of flooding, houses that should be pulled down, that's built on waterways that should be pulled down, now it becomes a total mess in the society, and then we now say we need to know what is wrong. That is when the governor has said, let me check what is happening. But these houses were to be pulled down, but what happened? But they say we also have government release. Who gave you? Me? Not me. So this become an issue. Where is the pump sec? Where is this? Call this man, call everybody for an emergency meeting. Water, the drainage are not working, and these guys have built on waterway, and you did not take action. Come and explain yourself. So we blame the governor most of the time, but it's really not. It's one person cannot do that. He have his team, he have his commissioner, he have all those that work with him there.
The PS and all the
PS
directors.
And all of the directors. Those guys are not called, but these are the main people that perpetrate these acts in the real sense of it. So we just blame the political office holder. He is the governor. He's the one killing us. Just imagine, something go bad. They just say, please, governor, come and help us. They push it to him as if it's that individual. He can't see everything. So we all need to work honestly and work with some level of integrity in this regard and bring out the necessary things that we need to bring out and do our work with diligence, because they have been paid for it. They are being paid.
We're going to take a quick break now, but I need us to talk a bit more about these issues, because I'm very sure those of us watching right now, we are scooping off so much from this discussion I'm having with Dr. Patrick Awosage. So that's going forward, we find a way, much better way, I should say, to approach these issues of owning property. But now we'll take a quick break first. We're back shortly to continue this discussion. Stay with me. Thank you for staying with us on Law and You this Monday afternoon. I was just going to ask you something about CDA again, because the Englishman says one thing leads to another.
Absolutely.
There's the argument that it is the fact that the CDA had run for many years that brought us to where we are today. Was the law blind to all of those developments in the course of having these CDAs in place?
Thank you very much. You see, the CDA didn't start one day. And now, if you look at them, the places, those communities were interior. Right. Were like the rural areas where you have, nothing really happening. It's that the urban area is expanding. And now they are gravitating into some of those areas, like the areas, for instance, in Benin now, we talk of country home and,
All around Sapler Road.
Sapler Road.
Amagba,
you now talk of Ugbo 1, Ugbo 2, Ugbo Village Road,
Right.
and all those houses.
Somebody even talked about GRA Phase 3.
You just imagine that. So, like I keep saying, the GRA that we know is like Aziz Boundary Road. That used to be the GRA.
Right.
But right now, GRA has extended far to Amagba. So that's basically what it is. Amagba on its own has been that's some rural interior folk places. And the folks there, they have been there. Now, the government present was not like on Hiyama Road. Now, every property there is documented.
Right.
And you should know the reason for this. The white guys that have been here, in colonial time, and people that have really structured in the earliest of time,
right.
They had their hands on what was available and around. As society grew and expanded, they needed to take more information, gather more information, and get more data. But things like that were no longer there. Now that's rural area. Somebody is going to build filling station. Somebody's come to do this. We want to build a warehouse.
Right.
Before you know it, activity starts. It was the duty of the government to go there and begin to take records, gather all this. How many plots do we have here? What are we going to do? And every land belongs to government. So you can just come. They should have put that in place. But again, they had a whole lot of challenges within town.
Right.
So that's basically where we have limited resources. Let's just work within our resources. And these young men and folks were now beginning to constitute another kind of government, even in an existing one, legitimate government that is in place, and pledging loyalty to the government. Yeah. Most of them beginning to be some of the card-carrying members of the party, and they tell you we are some sons of the Oba. And they tell you they are prince of this. We have so many princes in Benin. Right. The average Benin man is a prince. So wherever he finds himself, he's connected to the palace. He can link himself some way, somehow. There's a particular chief now who was, at least I heard, he was confronted. And he said, well, what kind of chief and title do you hold? He said, well, that I'm a Benin man.
Already makes me a chief.
That already makes me one. And so the next thing, it's what is carried here. And then he's going up and down with that, with his, traditional attires and moving everywhere. That is the land of Igodomigo. He's hiding under the guise of, I'm trying to protect the honor and the dignity of His Royal Majesty. And then you constitute another kind of, traditional setting there. And then start talking to the people. And then you have these young men who begin to go out there. They call their pointer, bush inspectors, and they give themselves names. And then they have a structure. You want to come, you can't go to, there are records there, they are not documented in the lands registry.
All right.
So they don't have the records. So Abinisho, it was in the rural area. Now that it's like this, what do we do? I think the government should step in. And the way they have done now, by saying no more CDA, but we should have
that's a step in the right direction.
Yes, that's a good step in the right direction because it was getting out of hand. Because you need to look at how they were harassing people. A young boy that can't even write his name tells you he's the chairman of SYZ community, that nobody could do anything here, that he is the one in charge. And having said that, you pay him money. Nobody is contending with him.
I'm just going to give you 1 minute to talk about something as we wrap it up right now. Nigeria is an environment where a lot of persons are not meticulous when it comes to acquiring properties. So the idea is I have enough money in my hands now, so let me buy something quickly before I spend it on things that are less important. And you talked about due diligence when we started having this conversation. Yes. So how do we ensure that happens?
Now look, you can do due diligence where you have records. Now if I'm looking for Mr. Uyi Agbomofegbe and I don't have his record anywhere, anybody can stand and say I'm the one.
Exactly.
So there are no checks and you just go say this expanse of land. That expanse of land is not marked by anything. Yeah. But you could go to 1-2 neighbor around and say, is he the owner? And they say, yes, it's him. They could be his allies. They are going to share.
So that's also not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed. At the end, then you build over time. Nobody may disturb you. Then it comes to time that you want to do some other thing, maybe years have rolled by. Somebody say, well, this land actually belonged to me. Say, where have you been? He said, well, I didn't know about your coming to build.
So that becomes the start of trouble.
Incidentally,
that's the much you can take on the program today. But this is a conversation that has to continue. And we can do that online using our platforms, facebook.com/ITV Radio NG. Our Twitter handle is at ITV Radio NG. But just to give you something to add to whatever it is we talked about on the program today, where you are not sure, you've got to use an expert. A lawyer wouldn't be a bad idea, especially a lawyer who has a handle on these sort of issues, because they say A stitch in time saves 9. But a friend of mine will say it now saves 10. That's on the lighter note. That's our program for you this week. I want to thank especially Dr. Patrick Awosage, legal practitioner, for coming on the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
I'm Muyi Agmofwegbe, and you enjoy the rest of your Monday.